Yeah.
Ooh.
So, all right. So just kind of, well, I like your the picture behind you.
I, yes, I'm a history teacher and I love history
Okay.
um, more than anything else. And so, actually, the picture on my right, everyone should recognize is George
Right.
Washington.
Yeah.
And then the picture on my left um, is actually kind of unique. I have a dear friend that has been in her family for multiple generations, and her mom just passed away, and so I'm not even a friend, a cousin, or anything. Well, not a family member, and
Right.
just a friend. And she gave it to me. It's the Declaration of Independence. So,
Mm,
um, exactly. And
wow.
and if I may apologize real quick, I usually don't for an interview. I don't have just a T-shirt on, but with it being today 9/11, I've got my
Right. Wow. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's in a way, I think it's kind of fitting for what we are trying to do here, and I appreciate what you're doing, is because if we don't um, fight against this ideology of critical race theory, then I mean, we literally can lose our country, at least not the country we know.
correct,
Hmm.
correct.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, well, just kind of a little bit background about me, pretty short. And I grew up in China, and then I had went to college there. Then I went to Canada for my graduate study. Then I came to United States to work as an engineer. So about 16 years, I I I felt God called me to teach in high school math. So that's what I did. So I can change my career, and that's where I started to see problem in the education system. And that time I was really concerned about academics because I know uh, my students were not prepared uh, for college. Not, I mean, um, let alone about real life. Um, so, so kind of starting. So 2018, I started my own nonprofit, kind of quit teaching, but I started my own tutoring business. So that's I have been doing. But like this May, I started hear about this critical race theory. Then that's where I kind of did some search. And the more I look, the more I know about this theory, I was become more concerned and even in a way kind of scared because I never thought that I have to fight against communism in America because I was kind of concerned about socialism. I mean, but it's actually even worse than that. And the thing is, like, there are so many teachers bought into it, and that's why when I started research, I found that uh, the theory itself was introduced to schools education in about around 1995. So they had about more than 20 years of indoctrinating the teachers. And now they are trying to push down to the K through 12 schools, really trying to indoctrinate our children. So anyway, that's kind of, um, I like to interview like teachers like you and also parents who are concerned, especially the parents who are active in the local school district. So basically wants to really let parents aware of that and hopefully that they also teacher became aware of it and kind of wake them up to say, okay, that's not something you really want to see because eventually this ideology is going to attack the teachers, especially you are white.
mhm.
Well, of course, you are white and a male and conservative, that becomes a lot of the harder. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So you say you taught about 25 years, and
Yes.
okay. So what do you see over those 25 years, especially in the history, uh, the things you are teaching?
Right. Oh, wow. Things that I have seen. Even just from the standpoint of if you had told me when I was a student teacher that
Mm.
I would have to one day be pretty much judge, jury, psychologist, police officer, even possibly even the possibility of taking a bullet
Oh,
um,
wow.
for students because of school shootings.
Right.
Um, I never would have believed you. I never thought that this day would actually come. And a lot of that has to do with discipline, but that's a breakdown in our society for a lack
Right.
of respect.
Yep.
Um, but as far as even now, some of these different philosophies that are starting to come in, and you're absolutely right, sir. The CRT, by what I research and readings that I have been finding out, because it is fairly new now, like coming into on a professional development level,
Right.
if you will,
Hmm.
into that K-12. Now there are some states that has had it, or it's been called something else. Um, I'm very aware of that because I am also an administrator on the Conservative Teachers of America page,
Right.
and we have different state pages too, and we pretty much have been communicating back one together. So some states have taken this road much further along than say here in Virginia where it's becoming new.
Right.
um, and so
Yeah, I think the whole thing actually, people get notice about it. I think started in Virginia, like some school boards meetings, and there is a
oh
quite
yes,
quite a showdown between the parents and the school board.
there is. And here's what's interesting, and this is what parents needs to understand and know, because it's actually even more sinister than this, than just CRT.
Mm.
Um, if you look at CRT, this is something that, actually started about 40, 50 years ago in I think it was Harvard University, and it's kind of then went into different law programs.
Right.
It was more talking about the legal institutions
Right.
and how there is built-in racism into our institutions as a
Right.
country.
Right.
So, of course, many of these people, even today, and many of us knows the different books that have been written, How to Be an Anti-Racist or
Hmm.
White Fragility.
Right.
Um, uh, all of these, and I think that's Robin. White Fragility is Robin
Robin.
DiAngelo. Yeah,
Yes.
and and so they will say, well, CRT is not being taught in school as a curriculum. And I
No.
will agree with them.
Right.
It's not. But what is happening is that you do have professional development.
Hmm.
At the beginning of school years, you have professional development during the year. And so what they do is they talk about things like equity.
Right.
They talk about cultural competency.
Hmm.
They talk about and they brand it saying, what is wrong with teaching a full history, including everyone. I
Hmm.
agree.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But the problem is that when you start, even especially in professional development, and you start singling out one group over another,
Hmm.
and says, for example, says things like, if you're Caucasian, you're part of the problem.
Right.
If you're Asian, and no disrespect either here, but if you're Asian, well, you're not minority enough.
No. Right.
Because
Exactly.
why? Yeah,
Yep.
because why in Asian families, and I spent 4 years in South Korea as an English teacher.
Mm.
Education is a high
Right.
priority.
Right.
So guess what? So I guess if you're Asian and because you have a high priority of education and you're excelling in math and science and English, then I guess you're not minority enough.
Right.
And
Because it's basically counter to their narrative of white supremacy. So
yes,
Asians actually is doing pretty well in
exactly,
so
exactly.
so therefore we actually I know, I mean, this is from what I read from their books, their talks. So our Asians will consider, like, I mean, it's not white, but we kind of like accomplice So basically, we maintain this status quo of white supremacy. So
Right.
therefore, we are not really considered,
E-
you know,
exactly.
uh,
Now, the one
there.
group, if you want to talk about groups, if you will, um, the one group that this is going to do more harm to, and I've actually got because I tutor as well, and I've heard this from parents,
Right.
and it's interesting because one of those parents, this is a book that she let me borrow.
Uh-huh.
It's called Powernomics: The National Plan to Empower Black America.
Oh, wow.
And she said when I first met her and her daughter, she said, "Yep, that's what was being taught at an HBCU university. That's a historical
Mm,
Black college or university."
right, right, right,
Um, so the one group that is actually going to be harmed by this more than anything else, really, are those students that are brown.
right.
They have a Black mother, father,
Mm-hmm.
or and a white mother, father.
Right.
That's the group that's going to be hurt the most, because what's going to happen is, with all of this coming out, it's going to be their mother, father is the aggressor,
Mm-hmm.
and their mother, father is the victim.
Right.
So where does that put me?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of an issue.
Right.
But
What they actually, I read how to be a anti racist,
mm-hmm,
and so they definitely give you a way out of that, is to become either become an ally or become anti. I mean, you have to become anti-racist.
mm-hmm,
So even though you are white, I mean, as long as you join their movement, you are trying to tear down this the system, then they will take you. But of
right,
course, you won't play the leading role, but but they will take you.
right. And what makes this even more sinister is what people or parents needs to understand too, is
Mm,
the fact that CRT actually has aligned itself with other things too.
right,
If you go to again, Robin DiAngelo, her book
right.
White Fragility, there's 5 tenets
Hmm.
to CRT.
Right.
And the one, and I always butcher this, and I shouldn't because I've said it enough times, but uh, it's called, one of those tenets is that you can have intersectionality,
Right.
meaning this, and this is where the CRT aligns with the LGBTQ as well as with the Black Lives Matter.
Right.
um, Intersectionality says that not only can you be a Black female, but you can also be a binary
Right.
Black male. Yeah, now for terms of parents and so forth, we have binary, which means it has to do with the sex that you were born with, that you don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to identify with,
Right.
and you can identify as something else.
Right.
This is what makes this even more devious, because even across the nation now, we have things like pronouns.
Hmm.
You Teachers are now put in the position of having to call a student by the pronoun that they identify with, and parents in some of those states don't even have to be notified.
Right. Right.
And so these are things that parents, so not only that, so then parents that has children in these classes that don't have these issues, well, I'm going to say issues, um, then they don't even know that their child is being introduced to this stuff at this point.
Right. They don't. They don't.
You
Well,
know, and they
like,
wouldn't even know, to ask a question like that.
right.
You
Well,
know.
before we got into this, for me, get into this CRT thing, I was worried about academics because
Mhm.
I taught in a private college prep school, like in our school, that the grades are highly inflated. So if
Mhm.
you got the B and A, it doesn't mean you really know that. But
Right.
but the parents had no idea, because parents, what they think school, that was 20 or 30 years ago.
Yes.
So they think that B is actually means something, but not in today's education. Either mean both public and private.
No, and the sad thing about that too, and I've said this now for a couple of years, and I'll be honest with you, I'm still in the classroom, but I
Mm.
also just completed my second term as a school board member. I
Mm.
did 2 terms,
Well,
and
how can you become a school board member as a teacher because we cannot do it here. Like,
So here in Virginia, so I was a teacher in another city
oh, okay,
for where I live.
right, got
And
you.
so 8 years ago, I went into it thinking, oh, I know everything there is about education. And this is going to be a breeze. You know, oh my, talk about getting an education on top of education. So many things just came alive to me with what is happening, what is going on, and where things are going. One way to get parents to understand this, and I think this is why parents are really frustrated. You know, President Eisenhower, on his way out the door, when he was leaving the White House, he gave a speech and he talked about this thing called the military industrial complex, to be aware of and concerned about the military industrial complex. And so today I see education as its own education industrial complex.
Right. Yeah, there is. Yep.
It has grown so large, and the money that is in education, that we use great sentences and phrases like it's all about the kids,
Right.
or if we just fully fund education, or these things, and it sounds nice, it sounds like the heart's in the right spot. But the institution anymore, it truly is driven by money. I will say this.
Right.
I'm a special ed teacher as well. I teach history as well as a special ed teacher. And when you go in that meeting, the questions really is money driven. Who's going to pay for what? Not necessarily what is the best thing for the child.
No, actually, in a way, I saw this too, because in a way, it really hurts the child, both psychologically and mentally, because for the school, they get more money if they can classify a student as a special need. So therefore, their incentive to get as many students to become special need as possible. But then the kids, they have to bear this label, which is think them are not as capable, which is, there are definitely some students need that. But the problem is that they just expanded so much that it's actually hurting the people who's in that program because they lower standard for them.
You're absolutely right. And it's interesting because, a couple of years ago, the thing was, get the ADD label, or get the MR label, and then you get Medicaid payments. And then what was happening is, like, even around here, one district had so many African-American students that were labeled MR that they start saying, oh, well, no, that's wrong.
What is MR?
Well, I say MR today, mentally retarded. I'm sure that there's another term for that.
Right.
But that's not the side of special education that I work in. I work more of the emotionally disturbed or severely behavioral handicapped, behavioral problems.
Yeah, you definitely cannot call them retarded anymore.
Oh no,
there is a
yeah, absolutely right.
A nice sounding name.
Yes, and I guess I'm showing my age on some of these labels, but again, that's that thing. But the point with that is that it's very easy, to get to get some more money with that.
Well, the thing is about ADHD, like, I'm pretty sure I will be classified as that if I was a kid in today's America, because like I'll get bored if I'm not interested in what teacher is teaching.
Right.
And especially like, when you are, head, you're top the class, you get easily bored. There's really not much teaching going on, so there's no wonder people are not paying attention.
Right. Well, and here's something that's interesting too off of this, especially with special needs. So in high school, I was a whiz in history. So I qualified first in one county, off of the an assessment, in a contest, and then I qualified first in another county for government, and then I placed honorable mention in the state of Ohio
Mm.
in history and government. Okay, but I could not pass Algebra 1 if my life depended upon it.
Hmm.
So a couple years ago, I asked a question to my assistant principal here in Virginia. I said, so, because in Virginia, you have to pass Algebra 1.
Oh,
You have,
okay.
you have to pass the class, and you have to pass what we call the standards of learning, whatever your
Mhm.
state test is.
Right, we have.
Yeah. So I said, excuse me. So I said, wait a minute. So here I am ranked in the state of Ohio. I'm first in 2 different counties, but
Mm.
I would not be able to get a diploma because I can't pass Algebra 1.
Mm.
I said, so what would happen?
Right.
And I was told that I would be labeled special ed, special education,
Okay.
and that I would be labeled probably something like LD because of that.
Mm.
And I said, okay, so what if I couldn't still pass off of the accommodations? Well, then we would get you more resources. And I really stopped and I thought about this, that this is so wrong because you're sending a message. So I would not be able to graduate in the Commonwealth of Virginia because I can't pass algebra. Well, obviously, I'm not gifted in that area,
Mm-hmm.
but I could do, I mean, as far as like history and dates and being able to do analysis, of history and whatnot.
Right, right.
So because I can't pass algebra, I guess I'm less than a student.
Mm.
So, and I'm thinking, and we're spending all this money for additional resources,
Okay.
and I'm like, there's just something inherently wrong with this
All
at
right.
this point.
So do you get any extra resources to help you?
That's what's interesting too. And for the classroom, not necessarily. In that case, what it would be like if you get a certain score on that state test, then you get 5 hours of tutoring, and then
Oh,
if
okay.
you exactly, and then if it's other things, the division
Mm.
does more, and I don't
Right,
necessarily know what that is, but I just thought we could better use that monies
right,
in so many other ways.
right.
You know,
Yeah. Well, so tell me why you started the group, because there are not many conservative teachers out there.
well, yeah. So here's what's interesting with this. It's interesting. For one, I didn't start the group. The group has actually been around since 2009.
Oh, okay.
And you're right. There's not many, but we're finding out there seems to be more than not.
Okay.
Um, and so I never really came on board until about 2018 because, like many conservative teachers, I was like, there's got to be some group out here that I can relate to
Right,
versus some of the groups that I would be in and conversating, and it's like, wow, all the attacking and so forth.
right.
So in about 2018, I found it. The lead admin is Kevin Matthews,
Mm.
and even he um, became the lead admin from the gentleman who did start it, Arnold Palmer.
Mm.
No, not the golfer.
Okay.
But I guess I've been told that he wanted to move on to other projects and so forth. Every once in a while, we see his name pop up, so
Okay.
he's out there. But
Right.
and then from about 2 years ago, there were a few state pages, and then it just exploded.
Oh,
Different people wanted a page, a group in their state.
right.
And so probably from about 2.5 years ago, we have jumped from 1,900 members to almost now 6,000. We're about
Wow.
5 shy. Yes,
Right. That's impressive.
it is. And even today, I mean, admins, myself and the other admins, I mean, we're all the time checking people that's being wanting to come onto the group. We check as well as we can to make sure that they are legit, and
Right.
it's not someone out there trying to catch teachers to report them and all of that.
Right.
hence, we've also this year started something. We're in our third week. We call it We Wear Yellow on Thursdays.
Huh.
And basically what it is, you said that there's few conservative teachers, and that can get pretty lonely, if you will.
Right.
So I decided to try this year, especially with everything that's going on, that we wear yellow on Thursday to show and represent that, we're not alone, that we are a unified, group. And also too, to protect children or students' minds
Right.
because of the CRT,
Mm-hmm.
the gender identity, and all of this. We wanted to kind of take a stand with a lot of this, and so that's what we've started doing even this year. So
Oh, wow. So that's wonderful. But why yellow?
everyone asks that. And here's why. So my good friend, who's also a school board member in the city next door, Sherry Story. So I called her and bounced the idea off of her, and I said, but what color can we use?
Mm-hmm.
Because we wanted to use a color that would be neutral, that would also not attract attention. So, for example, red. Red
Right.
is usually associated with conservative. Blue, associated with liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Pink. Pink is more
Right.
associated with breast
Yeah,
cancer.
that's taken. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then you didn't want to do multicolors like rainbow.
Right.
Guess what that is.
Yeah.
So you didn't want to wear black because you didn't want to look like you're going to a funeral,
Right.
kind of a thing. So Sherry said, well, why not yellow?
Mm.
It's neutral. It's not going to,
Right.
to attract that attention as say red or blue or something would. And
Wow.
I thought, that's pretty good. That's why we went that direction.
Okay. But
And
don't you have a dress code in your school?
sure. So like for myself and other teachers, we just wear a yellow dress shirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's interesting. This past Thursday, it was the third week we did it, and we had over 25 states being represented.
Oh, really? Wow. Do you
Yes.
have Indiana?
Yes.
Oh, do you know the person in Indiana who's leading the effort?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look up the admin
Sure,
there.
sure. I definitely want to get to know. Yeah. know that.
But no, there was a couple teachers out of Indiana that put on sported their yellow.
Okay. Yeah.
There.
I'll tell my wife about it.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
the thing is, I don't know if you have the similar experience. When my wife, well, she had her uh, undergraduate in education in Canada. So the license is for there. So when she wants to teach again, she knew that she need to have a Indiana license. So she actually went for graduate study at IU Bloomington. So the school education there is infamous for their liberal their ideology, But the thing is, what actually scared me and say also a lot kind of alarmed her is that her professors told them that their they the goal of education is to make social activists.
That does not surprise me that is being said, promoted,
Right.
and actually put right into the professional development.
Right. And the mentality there, I mean, pretty much all the professor in education, very few of them actually ever taught in K through 12. They just like went to graduate studies, got their PhDs, and turned into professors. So they came up with pretty much every year a different idea, new ideas, like how to teach kids, but they really never had that kind of experience. And a lot of them don't even have kids. So talk about what do they know? But anyway, they have this title, professors and all that, and nice school. I mean, school is is pretty up there. But the thing is, they have this mentality that they are against the parents.
Mm-hmm.
They think parents are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think parents as someone, you know, you serve or you at least work with, but they are basically they are against the parents. So
Mm-hmm.
they kind of look at the parents are, you know, uneducated, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
backward. Like, of course, conservative thinking to them is backwards, right? They are the
Right.
progressives. So they have that mentality there. So it's not surprising. Now we see some teacher, they want to push CRT no matter what. Like, I mean, if you don't like it, too bad. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of mentality they have. I don't know if you see that in your experience.
Yeah, yes, and it's interesting because I was even just thinking about this today with regards to that mindset, and that has now been for several decades
Hmm.
um, of pushing parents out, and it started slowly but gradually, and it really now starts to beg the question, and the question is, um, you know, why is it that the government, and I'm even going, and I'm including governmental schools, why is
Right,
it that the government now thinks that they have more responsibility and control over your children
right,
than you?
right.
Because we're seeing that
Hmm.
on multiple levels. I don't care
Hmm.
what you call it, CRT, the vaccine, or all of these different things.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter. um,
right, right. It's not up to the parents.
Right.
Hmm.
Also, too, the governor here in Virginia had said, I forget exactly. I think it was CRT, but
Mm.
he made it very clear that if teachers are not on board with this, then we're not welcome.
Oh wow.
So, okay, that's okay. I mean, that's all right. If you were to, and you could even do this after even the show, Mr. Sheen, the
Hmm.
if you go to the Virginia Department of Education website,
Hmm.
I mean, in anyone, I encourage anyone that's listening or see this, go to the VDOE, the Virginia Department of Education website. You pull up the website,
Hmm.
and my goodness, you would not think that this is a state Department of Education because of all of the LGBT, uh, equity,
Right.
uh, all of that stuff is right there with regards to, I think it says, Virginia is for equity, and it has all of these different things that is not necessarily inherently um, education. It's all of this stuff that is being
Right.
pushed anymore.
Exactly.
And
All
it's
about, yeah.
I mean, and it's so surprising even to me to go there because I go there as a teacher to pull down the standards of learning
Right.
or something, um, to look for professional development, and
Right.
it's like it's just crazy. In fact, the LGBT, it's called the LGBTQ model policies. It is 26 pages long. You could go to the website, pull it
Mm.
down, and it's significant because what it does, it gives parents a good idea of what is happening. Virginia's been late in the game off of this movement.
Wow.
Other states have had it now for years, but it clearly shows you the direction where we're going, the terms that are used, personal or the pronouns of
Right.
choice.
Right.
It's just amazing. So parents should be concerned
Yeah,
about what
that
is going on.
right. And I forgot where I saw it. There is a kind of oh, actually there is a professor, I think it's in Canada, some probably, and I'm not quite sure now. But I heard this from Jordan Peterson.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was talking about. Oh, actually, not Jordan Peterson. It's Barry Wise.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the uh, editor at the New York Times, and she quit because what she saw, the political, the environment they just couldn't even allow any different opinions there.
Yes.
So she actually, I think, interviewed a professor who actually did a study about those girls who wants to become, boys,
Hmm.
and the hormone treatment, the surgery, and all that, and the problem uh, caused all of that. And so the professor actually is not against transgender, but she believes that they should be done by grown-ups, not
Hmm.
little girls. Uh,
Right.
and there is a lot of problem there, but she got attacked, and her book was being kind of um, um, there is a many activists is trying to get her books out of say Walmart or Amazon. So
Right.
the huge attack on her is because she actually did some research which really showed the truth. What happens if at that age, if they did that, and unfortunately nowadays, um, the mindset. I mean, I'm sure it's not all teachers, but there you have those activist teachers. They think that's the right thing to do,
Hmm.
and they will do it, without the parents' consent
Right.
on that. I mean, that is causing a huge problem. I mean,
Right.
now, I mean, I think there's some statistic about like how many girls now in kindergarten, middle school, they want to, uh, to have that change that their gender.
Yes. Yes. It is prevalent. In fact, I don't necessarily quote me 100% on this, but I think even like a couple years ago, there was one or two states that was playing with the fact that if a child wanted to have, I guess what they call the hormone blockers, or if they
Mhm.
wanted to start the process
Right,
of changing, that that the school would actually allow for it and not even let the parents know.
right,
These are fundamental rights that is being targeted.
right.
Who is responsible? Part of this too that's driving all this is the fact that now we have government officials. I think it's the Department of Health and Human Services that is a transgender uh, a person that's
Mm,
in the U.S. government.
right,
Yeah, I think it's and the thing about it is, and we have forgotten this, and that is the fact that we are the adults, and how we carry ourselves and what we say and what we do is setting the groundwork for the next generation.
right.
So if you've got Monica and Jamal and Susie and John in third grade, right? And if
Hmm.
they see all this and they see the teacher validating, oh, that's really, and that's not a he but a she by pronouns, or this person, or another student is wearing the opposite clothing and wearing makeup,
Right.
and nothing is done about this. What do you think that is doing? Some would argue and say it's doing nothing at all, but it is doing
Yeah,
something.
yeah, definitely. You
I mean, it just is.
Well, it's in a way it's part of the conditioning, right?
It is
Yeah.
absolutely,
I mean, like
absolutely.
I grew up in China, so I grew up. I mean, I was educated there. I mean, that's how we've been conditioned into thinking that there is no God, and the communism. I mean, capitalism is bad. You know,
Hmm.
communism is the ultimate goal. Things
Right,
like that. It's like they don't even allow you to hear different opinions. There is
right.
no debate going on, and that's what's happening right now. And I think what's even cynical, I mean not cynical, uh, 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 very dangerous. That's actually not a good word, but let's use that. Very
Sure.
dangerous is that, say you have a parent, and if your daughter wants to change, I mean, at that age, the girls like girls, right?
Right.
And so the girls will say, I identify as a lesbian. Now, as parents, we cannot do anything about it.
Right.
And if you did, it's considered child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And you could get in trouble with the government. Or if you girl wants to become a boy, and as a parent, you don't allow that, then you get in trouble with the government. I mean,
Yes, we are heading there. I know some states
right,
actually have laws like that
right.
in place already.
Yeah, because they could say you are abusing your kid.
Right.
And so therefore they could took a kid away from you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's
And
what I think that's what's coming up in
yeah, it
down the
could very be.
pipeline.
It very well. I agree with that too. And to be honest, I hope I'm wrong on a lot of things. I really want to be wrong on a
Right.
lot of things.
Yeah.
But I think what you're starting to see too is the fact that if you thought that we had a teacher shortage before,
Mhm.
you have not seen anything yet.
Right.
I talk and I listen to a lot of conservative teachers. We love teaching. We want to be in the classroom. We want to stay. But there are many conservative teachers that are looking at, we can do learning pods. We can
Right.
start our own school.
Micro
We can do
schools and all that. Yeah.
Mhm. All of those things. In fact, I myself, it's on Facebook. I've got a group. It's called Lamb's Academy, which is I'm starting small, but eventually going to move into teaching an in-person school
Right.
with this. So, I mean, conservatives are starting to do that. Some will argue and say, well, if you pull out, then you just leave it to the liberals. My response to that is, what do you think has been happening for 50 years?
Yep. It's all has been like, yeah, already.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, conservative teachers have been yelling and screaming for
Right.
years,
Right.
and no one is listening. And
No.
now you want to listen because of CRT
Yeah.
or because of pronouns?
Right.
This is the accumulation of things.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like for me, when I got into the teaching, I actually trying to reform. I mean, we talk about school reform and all that,
yes.
but after like 4 years in the system, I realized that you cannot do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no way you can reform the current system. The way we can do that is actually as teachers, especially conservative teachers, is actually get out that system, start our own schools. And also for the parents, really they need to take their kids out of that system and to teach differently. I mean, it's not just public and private, it's the whole system is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The system is really dumbed down in many ways.
Yes.
Yeah. So the kids are not really prepared. I mean, there are many articles out there about remedial education. That's a big business now.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the education industrial complex, right?
Yes.
So you got the kids. I think it's about like uh, if it's for 2 year, like community college, it's about 60% of those freshmen, they have to take remedial. 4 year college is about 40%. That's a huge number. And those
Mm-hmm.
kids have to pay at the pay the tuition, but trying to learn something they're supposed to have learned in school,
Right.
high school. And many of them actually couldn't even graduate. So now they didn't get the piece of paper, and now they have a student debt.
Mm-hmm.
And the student loan debt, debt now is actually, I think, about $1 trillion more than just the credit card
Yes.
loan. So this is like talk about there's money to be made to dumb the kids down, and this has been going on for a while. It's just now the CRT, I think, is kind of in a way is the last straw that
Yeah.
kind of wake up the parents, say, oh, if they do this, what else have they done?
Exactly. Well, and that's just it. And I think, if there has been one positive of the pandemic, if there has been one positive,
Right.
it has been the fact that parents actually got to see what actually was being done
Right.
in the classroom.
Right.
They got to see the disrespect, the unruliness, and so forth. And then, as things like CRT started coming to mind, then it was like, oh wow, this has been going on right under our noses. A case in point, something you had said earlier, Mr. Shi, with regards to grades. I bet most parents don't even realize this, but like here in Virginia, most school divisions now has a minimum grade, meaning
Right.
you cannot give a child lower than 50% or
Right.
60%.
Right.
Some states, I think Washington, has done away with grades.
Mm-hmm.
So we had these extremes,
Right.
but yet that parent, and here's the irony of that. So a child could do no work all year, be a tyrant in class, and you can only give them a 50. And so
Right.
when you send home their report card or their midterm report and it says 50 or 55, in actuality, it should be about a 35 or a 20.
Yep. Or zero.
Or zero. I mean, the thing is, we don't have any in education. We don't have any integrity anymore.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
think they
honest
actually,
integrity.
right. There is actually a case. I think it was in Virginia about this teacher who got in trouble for not giving 50% to students who didn't even turn in the homework.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just like, wow. And for me, like I mentioned to you, I taught in a private college prep school. Like the way we do the grading is that they got full mark on their homework as long as they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people actually copy from each other, and there's nothing you can do about it because they
Right.
always say we work together. What are you going to do about it? So now have that. Then if they take a quiz or test, even if you fail every problem, they still get 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And now the homework was taking about, I think, somewhere from 60% to 80%.
Right.
Now, so if they didn't understand anything, they'll at least get a D. Oh, sorry, actually at least get C and even B. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing. Like the public school are even worse because the reason our school was inflate the grades because all the public school in the neighborhood, they already inflate grades. So when the parents moved their kids to our school, so the kids used to get B at the public school, come to our school, get C and D. Guess what? The parents will blame us
Mm-hmm.
for so they think we didn't do a good job, which
Right.
so therefore our school has to go with it, has to force to basically inflate the grades. But
Mm-hmm.
parents need to know that is that today's B and even A. For example, like just use my school as example. When we have this AB honor roll, it pretty much basically the whole class went up there.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe just one or two left from the class. It's just like something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have that many kids into AB honor roll, and there's the people who got A's are just so many, and the kids
Right.
they got so many awards that they don't even care about awards anymore.
Right.
I still have awards like the student never bothered to take it. They
Yeah.
didn't even bother to show right for the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't even come to even get it. Just like doesn't worth much anymore. But the parents need to realize that. And then parents look at, oh, my kids go to college, so it must be good.
Right.
But then the kids go to college, they have to take a remedial classes, or they have to, quit after a couple of years.
Right.
But that information never got fed back to us.
No.
So we just don't know.
No, it did. And I think part of that too is what is driving that is, so we've talked a little bit about the money side of things.
Right.
Now, what I think is driving this is not just money, but what we call the accountability ability standards in place.
Mhm.
So each state has their own things that they have to, that they're held accountable for. The federal government has mandated that states have to assess reading and math, and I think science as well, some parts from
Right.
grade 3 through 8. So that's why you have your SOLs or your state mandated tests that you have.
Right.
The things about that is if your school isn't getting a certain percentage, right, then they're
Mm.
not accredited. So what are you going to do? You're going to go out of your way to make sure that your school gets accredited.
Mhm.
So you do a lot of rote memorization. You don't do tutoring to learn, but you do tutoring on how to take a test.
Right.
You know, it's just
Well, this is
it's
actually,
crazy.
yeah, this actually happened in my school. Like I know in the past, we have used to have iStep. Now it's called iLearn. So they change
Yes.
things. Then when they change it, say, oh, we cannot compare. Now we have a new standard. I mean, it's just the
Right.
way they don't want to take responsibility. But anyway, like the those standard tests are supposed to be like kind of like a 1-point assessment. It's
Right.
not something for you to prepare for it, right? Just test, see what you got.
Right.
But at the past, our school didn't do that preparation.
Mhm.
But then a few years, I think 3 or 4 years after I was there, they changed that. So the kids had to take like a week and 2 weeks to prepare for the test.
Right.
So that took out, the regular testing time. But now, like you said, they just memorize so
Right.
that they can pass the test.
Right.
And
Go ahead.
hello?
Hello?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think it was just fading in and out.
Yeah, it's kind of glitch there. Yeah.
But you're so right. And so now here's what's interesting. So now you got people running around, parents and politicians and so forth, saying, how come these kids don't understand civics or government?
Right.
Or how come they don't know basic history? Well, I can tell you why. We have built an education system now where a state test is really A, B, C, D.
Mm-hmm.
It's rote memorization. So when you talk about things like the Declaration of Independence and inalienable rights,
Mm-hmm.
okay, those are things that requires deep thinking. It requires writing.
Right.
It requires thinking and thought and reasoning. What do we mean by inalienable? What do we mean by life and liberty and pursuit of happiness? But if your whole education experience now is a question with A, B, C, D, you don't get into that.
No, not at all.
Which is now why you have things for a whole population, and a lot of us out here now thinks, oh, it's okay to be forced or mandated to take a shot, or it's okay to keep people away from the store and so forth.
Right.
No, what happened to the First Amendment where you have freedom to assemble?
Right.
But we don't know that because our
No.
system is A, B, C, D.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely dumbed down because the thing is, like, I know my experience, the kids are okay with not knowing it as long as they pass the test.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I was shocked actually because I was just kind of jumping in, right? I was engineer and got into that system.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked that even the teachers thought that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
As teachers were supposed to teach them, right?
Right.
I mean, I can understand the student think it's okay. I mean, I was student once, right?
Right.
We just trying to do the bare minimum, but that's not okay as a teacher.
No, but I think and not to excuse behavior or so forth, but I think what's happened is those teachers are now thinking it's okay because why? Because that now has become their education experience as well.
Oh,
That's
gotcha.
that's how they were educated.
I gotcha.
case in point, I was at a professional development that was brought on by the Virginia Department of Education about 2 years ago. And they were trying to revamp everything here. And it's interesting because they asked the question, what does success look like? And they asked these fairly new teachers, that had 3 years experience or less. And the presenter said that this 24-year-old right out of college, raised her hand up and thought she was getting the right answer and said, success is measured by your SOL pass rate. No, but that is what we have created.
Right.
Yeah,
true. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I was planning for do a half hour, but I don't think half hour will do the justice. I really want to kind of interview again.
Oh, absolutely. I
the
would love to
future.
come back on and thank you for having me.
No problem.
It's there and you're right. There's so much now that's at stake with all of this that if we don't start talking,
we need to talk, like, especially I'm grateful that you said that have a group. So when you have a group, there is power there. Because when I realized that, when I was kind of sounding the alarms, nobody actually listened to me.
Right.
Yeah, and I think in a way the parents are also conditioned, because parents now, especially the parents now, they think it's okay too. Like,
right.
you didn't do anything, you pass the test, then it's okay. I mean, you should look at the credits instead of learning anything. Yeah.
Right.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you.
Yeah. Okay. But I'll put this also on YouTube so I can share to more people. Yeah.
That will work.
Okay. Bye.